Welcome to the Corner Office, where we bring you the latest news from the world of commercial real estate, the greatest voices in the industry, and the corporate chats you've been missing. Let's get to it.
Okay, we're excited to have Paul Rowett here in our little studio here today. And, I've known Paul for a long time. We were at varsity together. We spent a lot of time improving our academic prowess and statistics in year one, certainly. And then the rest of the time going through the rigors of water polo, going on tours and being the best we could be.
Someone had to do it.
Yeah, someone had to do it. So, but then I was like, let's see what Paul's actually been doing in the last couple of years commercially. I know you've had great success in your businesses. And so I thought, let me go on LinkedIn and see if there's anything I haven't missed. And there were two Paul Rowett LinkedIn profiles. The one said, Paul Rowett, director of Lobster Ink. The other one said, Paul Rowett, investor, entrepreneur, and climate change enthusiast. The only thing I noticed in the one, the hair was a lot grayer. And I thought, was it hard at Lobster Ink? Or is this a sort of informal air a climate change enthusiast tries to take on with a sort of silver styling?
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
They're two. Yeah.
Oh, I've never been great with
You actually look a lot better than the other one. Pocket square, everything. I mean, you've changed.
No, thanks for the intro, John. Yeah, I suppose our relationship was really formed in the water polo pool and on buses to water polo tournaments,
yes.
Which I suppose isn't a subject that we want to discuss on this podcast. No. But yeah, since then it's been a journey. My grey hair is testament to that. But yeah, it's been.
Listen, you had grey hair in truth at varsity, so
I'm glad you're catching up now with the salt and pepper beard of yours.
Yes. No. So listen, I want to talk about Lobster Ink a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start talking about Toko. So Lobster Ink, I mean, what an interesting business. It started off, a lot of the people that we knew actually worked for the business, and it started off with everyone going out to the different game farms and out to the different bush camps and training people silver service, and then it got into a Mac, and then it started to be actually an ed tech business, which grew and grew and grew. It got to Dubai, got to the UK, and it just became this massive business. And then you ended up selling it for more zeros than our ex-president could pronounce. So tell us, how did you do that? What happened? I mean, what an awesome story.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. The story is really, I wish I could sit and say that we designed the intended outcome that we wanted to achieve. But truth be told, we were four guys, myself, Dale, Farsi, and Tim Nell. There were a couple others at the start and kind of started and moved off, but that was the major founding team.
The guys who moved off must be gutted.
And actually, I was actually employee number one, myself and another guy called Duncan, number 1 and 2. And before we joined, it was called Dendalk and Malherbe Wine Services Training Company Limited, which was catchy. And we basically found a way to conduct live training, i.e. face-to-face training, in hospitality in luxury game lodges around the world. Why luxury game lodges specifically? A, because it's rad to go to a luxury game lodge, and B, because the skills gap is so enormous between guest expectations who are coming to the lodge and the ability for the teams on the ground to deliver. Often the teams are from kind of the local area, and you're talking about people who have grown up in the bush, who don't know any difference between a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot grape, and are yet expected to be able to deliver at a service level on European or American 5-star standards, because the guests are going from Ritz-Carlton to Mandarin Oriental and then Singita, for example. So
even in sales, or even in anything, it's not about how you communicate it, which makes sense to you. It's about how someone understands that it makes sense to them. And it's such an interesting thing to talk about from education perspective, but also from just a general business perspective.
Yeah. To
speak as they understand and make sure that they understand, because you could be saying one thing and they're hearing another thing.
It's pretty phenomenal watching the power of knowledge to enable somebody's personality to come out.
Yeah.
We'd do training sessions and people would actually relax and be comfortable within themselves because they understood that guests actually wanted to talk to them.
Yes.
They wanted to engage. They didn't want somebody who's with white gloves.
Just a wallflower,
Yeah. The reason they have come to Africa and the reason why people travel is to learn about culture and to learn about people. And that gift that you give them is something that they can't get any other way, So that was like massively empowering. And I think the early years in terms of like the learning about the market and how people learn, then kind of built into the next product. And then maybe just a note on the people, because I know you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I was interested to see how the dynamic fit together, because in any business, it's seldom just one person, or you can have the just one person model, but often it's a number of different people, and that chemistry that comes together is actually what drives it forward, And I know you guys are all sort of mates and with vastly different personalities, just to know. So I was interested to see how that all came together, right?
They say like, never work with your mates. It's like a rule. But I think when we were going into the business, we didn't have like pre-existing friendships.
Yeah.
So we became friends, and we became, I think, way more than friends.
Yeah.
We used to sit in a room, probably no bigger than this, for about 12 to 16 hours a day, before wives and kids and all those distractions. And we just used to sit and work together on laptops, talking about stuff. We ran the business together for 15 years.
Crazy.
Like we probably spent more time together than...
But it's incredible how much time you actually spend with your mates from work. Yeah.
Huge amount of time. And look, I mean... I
started up at the Roundhouse. What was the link to the Roundhouse? There was Lobster Ink, and there was Let's Sell Lobster.
Yeah, no. I mean, when we started our business, we took the same approach as a shotgun to business. We just sprayed pellets everywhere.
Everything, yeah.
Hopefully something stuck.
It also turned out to be quite a success. The
Roundhouse,
yeah.
The Roundhouse was, we call it our most expensive marketing campaign. We decided that it was a good idea to start a restaurant to show the market that we could operate as well as train.
Yeah.
Because there's a saying, those who can't do, teach.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, we can do as well.
Yeah.
Which was easier said than done.
Yeah.
The original idea was to start a hotel school, but like a rad hotel school that operated as a really cool restaurant. And then we kind of pivoted to just a restaurant.
Yeah.
And within a couple of years, we were like third. I think we won third. We were top 5 restaurants in South Africa for a number of years. We won the best service. And I think Farsi was largely due to that success, because it's hospitality has always been in his blood.
Yeah.
I think the rest of us were kind of like helping as much as we could.
Yeah.
Like running service and whatever. There's another funny story that's just popped in my head. Me and Dale were working lunch service. Dale Dendalk, he was the CEO. And we both are like a little bit awkward around tables, like we're not phenomenal waiters.
Yeah.
Great on the dance floor, not so much on the restaurant floor.
So you clown.
And it was a charity lunch for Raymond Ackerman. And Raymond had there was 20 kids who had graduated or done something and had the award of having a lunch with Raymond. And Dale was putting down this cheese platter. There's like big cheese balls.
Yeah.
And he puts down the platter like this. And a roll of Chev, like that's cheese, rolls off the thing like this, rolls on the table and lands in Mr. Ackerman's lap. so now Dale's like, oh, this is awkward. And I'm like, what's going to happen? So Dale like,
no, don't go and get it. Oh, no.
Picks it up, puts it in a side plate, takes it out. I was like, oh, my word. I can't believe that just happened. But the Roundhouse was hilarious and challenging and rewarding and hard, and
it was such a cool space. I mean, it was really
a beautiful space. It was a beautiful, beautiful space. And if you could look through some of the hard operations, it was a magical experience.
And time. I feel like that time in Cape Town was just great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. No, it was a really, really magical time. And we started a wine distribution company. We started a recruitment company. We started a bunch of businesses. But Lobster was really the one that we saw the greatest demand for. It wasn't being serviced in terms of like people going to lodges, and because it was hard, if you couldn't run it as like a sustainable like person our age, you just have no family life. Tim Nell was the other partner.
Yes.
And he was really the master behind Lobster Ink, behind digitizing our content and creating a product out of the service that we.
Yeah, because you took it from people going to the lodge.
Yeah.
Then you sort of digitized it, put it onto like a locked-in Mac
Yeah.
and dropped them off.
Yeah.
Watch this Mac.
Yeah.
And then it became ultimately a streaming service, like an EdTech. What do you call the platform? Like a
EdTech, education technology.
Yeah, EdTech platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this ultimately becomes the hugely scalable business, which you don't only send to the lodges, but you also send to Dubai, and you send to the UK, and you send across the world.
Yeah, I mean, let me start the story by saying at one point, when just before we sold, we were training 2 million people around the world in 23 languages.
Wow.
Marriott, Hilton, IHG, and all the brands across those hotels, all their brand standards, all their procedures, all their...
That is incredible, eh?
And that started with, there's a saying, you innovate out of necessity. You know, there's innovation for innovation's sake, and then there's innovation out of necessity. And we were at a point where we had a couple of trainers going, traveling, and then our trainers started getting poached by the lodges, because the lodges were like, oh, wow, you knowledgeable young man, how much are you getting paid? And nothing. And they were like, well, I'll double nothing and come work for us.
Yeah.
And because we were a startup, I mean, we couldn't afford big salaries. So we saw a lot of turnover in the trainers, and we were like, no, we got to scale this.
Gotta lock this down, yeah.
But this is at the time, and I know people struggle to imagine this, at a time when Facebook was not a big thing, video online wasn't a big thing.
It's like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that long ago, but I remember reading a report saying, the report was basically saying video online is going to become ubiquitous. It's going to become the way we consume data. And I was like, wow, that's a wild thought. Think about where we are 15 years later.
Crazy. YouTube wasn't even that big then.
No, because most of us had dial-up, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have streaming mobile on our phones. Like 3G wasn't like a massive thing.
Yeah.
WhatsApp didn't exist. And that was really when when Tim was instrumental. He joined and taught himself how to become a videographer and an editor, and how to build a website. He's like super intelligent dude, and just very practical and very there's a problem, let me solve it, simple. And we started filming content. The original idea was that we would film DVDs and we'd send them up to a lodge. They would watch the DVDs on their TV, because we didn't have internet properly in Cape Town, in the middle of the Okavango,
nothing.
Forget. And the first series of service training was hilarious, because it was Farsi at the Roundhouse doing teaching service there.
Yeah.
And
with the guy with the guitar in the background going ring to change the scene.
literally. One tripod, because we didn't have cash, so we could only afford one tripod. 2 cameras. So the one camera was static, and the other camera looked like you were on a boat. It was trying to hold it literally looked like you were watching on the sea. And it was...
I love it.
But you know what? You do that stuff. And nowadays there's words just try and fail and whatever.
Beta model, get beta out,
Yeah, but in those days we were just we have to just do it and see what happens. Yeah. And then we did it, and then we were like, okay, it needs to get better like this and better like this and better like this. And we watched the content and...
Dude, stand still.
Yeah. Need a tripod.
Okay,
brother.
that guy has very shaky hands.
Yeah, it's like, Chief, go train. We need a tripod. Oh, okay. And then we... Yeah, and I think back to the people in the business very quickly before I go and talk about the product. We were all very honest with each other, and we were all very honest with what we're good at and what we're not good at. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, is to say to people you respect, I am not good at the following things.
100%. Yeah.
If you guys are good at that, I won't get into your side. You don't get into my side. And the reason why Lobster really worked, and the reason why we were together for 15 years, which is a long time for partners to be together, is because we each had very different personalities. We respected the differences, and we didn't try and kind of go into the other's lane too much. And it really worked. It worked phenomenally well. Farsi was like the creative, off the wall, like a box of crayons and a blank piece of paper, and he'll come up with
crazy idea,
brilliant things. One is like a knockout success. The others are way over budget. Dale was like the business model guy, run the business properly, efficiently, make it profitable. Tim was the product guy, and then I was operations. So I would actually Tim would build the product within budget and whatever, and then I would take it to market, sales and operations, I guess. Yeah. Build the sales teams, align incentives, and grow the business.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a brilliant story. Yeah. Love it.
Cool story. But yeah, and maybe just a bit on the product. When we started building video, I remember the first day we watched a video of Farsi explain what a fish knife was. And just humor me for a second because I want to explain the video to you. Because we had this aha moment. We're sitting in the roundhouse and we watched it on a 27-inch iMac. And we looked at this thing and Farsi said, he took a fish knife and he said, fish knife is shaped differently to other fish knives, to other knives. Do you know why that is? And we all like lean into that. And he goes, he's got a piece of fish on the plate. And he says, because fish is delicate, so you need to separate fish. You don't cut through fish because then you break the flakes. And we all like, seriously? Is that why? You know? And we were like trainers.
Yeah.
And every single person we showed that video to, whether it was GM, like operations directors, whatever, they were like, we could see they didn't know.
Yeah.
You could see it.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, it's content's good. Eh? They didn't want to say, like, seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we just thought, imagine you could capture every little nuance of mystification in hospitality and demystify it.
Yeah.
And that was available, because turnover is a high thing in hospitality. That was available forever in your lodge. You could sit down and you could watch it, and your new person could watch it. Onboarding is quicker, efficiencies are better. If your service is down, you go and target a service.
And it was funny and easy to watch. And
it was great to watch, yeah. And then we really focused on the quality of the content. So we tried to push, we pushed the boundaries in terms of how people learn online.
I remember you telling me people only like to consume, well, certainly now, people, you used to have these old videos, sit there, watch it for an hour, forget half the stuff. It's probably, you probably walk off, go make yourself a sandwich, come back, it's still going, you're like, my God, monotonous.
Yeah.
Whereas if people actually want to listen to 1 minute 30, snip.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Get the concept across, get something interesting going across that's engaging, that they want to like listen to, not just a talking head, like, and I thought those are all brilliant concepts. And I even, say to our guys, like, we need to deliver things pretty quickly. Like, no one wants to listen, no one has time. And it's actually such an interesting takeout to get there, to actually innovate, to understand that and how people want to learn. But I also think it's because of, everything's short now. Twitter, short. Watch a little like reel or whatever it is, short. We talked a lot about the business and we talked a lot about the people and all the rest of it. And then just to sort of surmise and just to cap it off, you guys ended up selling this business.
Yeah.
You in sort of training 2 million people, so many different languages, different continents, like unbelievable. Now you sell this business, okay? And what I found so fascinating is who you sold it to, Ecolab. And I couldn't get the concept of why and what. So I'm interested to know why and what.
Maybe firstly, just a bit of a background on Ecolab. We used to call them the biggest company no one knows.
Yeah.
So 93% of hospitality establishments, whether that's quick service restaurants or hotels, are cleaned using the products that Ecolab provide. And that's...
It's like BASF. Anything you touch, the ink in this pen, BASF. The stuff that makes this paper white, BASF. Anything.
Yeah. And you don't know the company because they don't brand, because they're mainly B2B.
Yeah.
Ecolab had 1 million B2B customers worldwide, and McDonald's is one of those. Burger King is one. It's like a catastrophically big business, 52 billion market cap company.
Wow.
And that's that's their oldest product line, but now they've gone into water and sanitary, like a whole bunch of other stuff. And we approached them actually because we thought it would be a good idea, because we were like every hotel group we'd speak to, they'd say, our products are supplied by Ecolab. And we'd say, wouldn't it be cool to put product training on our platform for the housekeeping course and for the chefing course and for hygiene and whatever. So we approached them with this kind of proposal to do the content and distribute it on our platform. And that conversation kind of stuttered a little bit until one particular guy entered the room and said, I'm going to set up another meeting with some other guys, and then some other guys, and then some other guys. And we started realizing that the titles got bigger and bigger with the people we were meeting. And we eventually got to one guy who said, look, we've been looking for a learner management system to purchase because we want to extend the products offered into our clients, because they've got a client base and they want to diversify, but also leverage off the ability to distribute learning more efficiently then sending trainers to the establishments.
And is everyone sitting in this meeting at the same time with their stomach just going, don't
Pretty much, yeah.
smile.
Yeah. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at that stage, it was still like we obviously had always set out to seek an exit.
Yes.
Why do I say that?
Which I think is good business practice. Even if you don't want to exit, you should build your business to exit. Yeah.
Correct. Because you then build, like your internal governance is clinical from the start because you imagining how somebody else would see it.
Yeah.
And I think
You can't say we had a conversation. You have to show them the conversation that you had.
Correct. Yeah. Board meeting minutes, et cetera, et cetera. And in the beginning, early days, we were not, I mean, you can imagine 4 young South African dudes. But we quickly realized that a business like ours in the edtech space, to seek an exit is the right way. And if you want to grow quickly, then you need to reinvest all your profits. The other thing that we didn't do is take seed capital up front. So we didn't take, because we we bootstrapped the business through consulting, live training revenue. So it meant we grew slower, but I think it was a more robust method of growth, not like build a product and hope somebody buys it. If no one buys it, you cash burns.
Yeah.
Which is a different shape of business.
More sustainable.
Yeah, more sustainable. Takes longer. It depends what you're after. But we were operating within the constraints that we had. We didn't have lots of cash, so we just did it that way. And then when we started to talk about an exit, things got pretty real pretty quickly. I mean, we had just landed the government of Dubai as a client and the whole of Marriott for the biggest e-learning contract awarded in the last couple of years. So we were like on cloud nine. And we said to ourselves, we probably need to look for an exit because it's, the revenue is trending in the right way. And I think we were all getting tired. We were starting young families, 15 years, slogging it out. It gets tiring. And now your priorities are starting to shift because you want to be a husband and a father, full time. So
and it's an all-consuming business. 2 million people, 2 million people viewing, so many clients, so many countries.
Yeah.
That's a lot to manage.
Sales offices in 5 countries around the world, operating in all time zones. Yeah, it was, it's big business. And then getting calls at all time of night saying like, oh, this translation's not working and the text gone down here and and whatever. After the sale, and the sale went through pretty quickly. I think it went through in like 3 or 4 months, which is great.
Wild.
And after
Who
that,
led the negotiations?
Dale was great in the negotiations. And we had, we realized about 3 years before that we didn't have the skills that we needed to run the business correctly. We didn't have the experience. The business had outgrown us as individuals, which is also another like quite hectic realization.
Yeah.
So we got a 50-year-old Dutch guy, CFO, and he had been like Silicon Valley experience and TomTom and all that kind of stuff. So he'd like been around the block, and he was phenomenal in that negotiation because he just knew, he had the confidence to negotiate. I think if it was just us, we probably would have got handed.
A few less zeros.
Yeah. And he was really fantastic. Yeah. So and he acted like at that stage he was like mature, calm, like the leader in the room. Where we were all very excited. It's quite a leap of faith to trust. To trust somebody who's coming into the business where you like all the partners, and then new guy comes in, you got to let him in, and you got to be vulnerable, and you got to like hand the trust over to him. But yeah, it was a phenomenal experience, amazing learning experience as well.
Incredible.
And then we worked for the business for a year and a bit afterwards. I wanted to see how an American corporate operated, and then decided to.
That's when everyone leaves, yeah.
To leave that and focus on the family.
So then the day you leave, you're basically in a position now where you're exactly the same person.
Yeah.
You now no longer have to go to the office, and you also don't have to check the price of washing powder at Tesco's. So what does that feel like? I mean, you're just sitting there going, so run then.
No, it was pretty phenomenal for the first like couple of months.
What was your guilty?
Still not real.
What was your guilty purchase?
My wife and I went into Geneva Center, like into the middle of Geneva, where all the fanciest shops are.
Yeah.
And I bought a Panerai watch.
Nice.
And she bought a Cartier watch.
Nice.
And we did it like we walked through the shop and we sat in the chair and we got served the champagne and we paid way too much for watch that I don't even wear.
Roll.
But that was it. That was our guilty purchase. I quickly realized, though, it sounds how it sounds, but it's true. I quickly realized that saying that money doesn't make you happy is true.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's what you can do with it, the experiences and the connection with people as a result of it. Sure. Yeah. But like, you got some numbers in your bank account.
Yeah.
Your life is ostensibly the same.
Yeah.
You know,
you're like, God, I didn't need that watch. That is it.
Didn't need the watch. Yeah. So it was. And another weird emotion that I don't know if you.
No, I don't.
The other strange emotion.
Answer no, not yet.
And look, I'm not sounding like we were ecstatic. We were extremely happy and super grateful. But the one thing that I must mention is you lose your identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've built this thing for 15 years. You are part of it. It is part of you. And then all of a sudden it's not.
Yeah.
And you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Where do I go?
Interesting psychology.
Yeah, I think it's like I've heard when people retire, it's the same. When sportsmen retire,
that's another thing I want to chat about. Is that business that you were involved in founding, right? Reboot your life. Yeah,
yes,
which is sportsmen who basically day and night. One day everyone's screaming your name. The next day people are like, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's just literally day and night.
Yeah.
Money stops, the phone call stops,
the
sponsorships stop, done.
Yeah.
You know? So and that's a beautiful business where you guys are actually looking to bring guys in and form a community where those guys are actually still part of something and now transition into something commercial.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was largely driven by Justin Malk and Neil de Kock and Duncan Woods and Marissa, who kind of had come together to form this idea. And then we combined it with what EO does, and EO Entrepreneurs Organization, or YPO, any of those organizations that have a group of 8 people that you meet with.
John Ratcliffe saying, "Did you guys say EO?" When's the next meeting?
That's a good handshake.
Yeah.
And I was part of EO in Cape Town when I was there, and I found it tremendously valuable for accountability. You feel like you're part of a team. Yeah. Everyone's sharing very openly and vulnerably, so you don't feel like your stuff is... you're not feeling alone. So we set up that similar structure, and it's been amazing. It's super rewarding because people are saying like, "This has helped me so much."
Is there a group for rich billionaires who are also now feeling like I don't have a meeting? That's the next one to start.
It's called a fine dining restaurant.
Yes, yeah.
I think everybody nowadays needs a bit of support in terms of like, airing a place where you can air your feelings and your fears and your vulnerabilities and you don't get judged.
Yeah.
Because often, even with our like your best friends or your partners or your wife or girlfriend or whatever, you want to show the best version of yourself. You don't want to say like, "Today I'm feeling incredibly weak. I don't think I can achieve this."
Yeah.
Because then you're worried about what, like, are they going to have extra pressure or so you generally like put up a...
And which they generally do. If you say that, they're like, "Oh, my world's falling apart." So now you get the opportunity to move in something that you actually love, right? And a climate change, self-professed climate change enthusiast, right? Which I didn't know you were at Varsity. So
people change.
Yeah, people change. Sure. Not to say that you weren't, and not to say that you burning diesel cars all day, and like flying on private jets and that kind of thing. I don't know. But so now tell me about Toko. I mean, I've been studying this thing now and trying to understand it and actually trying to understand the sort of carbon credit trading. And my basic understanding is, just so that we can correct this, is that you have those heavy greenhouse emission producers, basically. So you've got your big manufacturers and your big factories, and these guys produce significant greenhouse emissions. There are other guys who don't, and there are countries who trade between the two. So maybe you produce a lot of greenhouse emissions and I don't. So I sell you my credits based on, and I'm assuming that there'd be a taxation line or something where they're able to like trade this. Is it a live exchange? Is it just an exchange between countries? Is there a regulator? Is there that's my first question. So then they trade these things, and what you've done is now formed a carbon reserve in Switzerland, as I understand, which now has carbon offset credits. would it be, or tons of carbon offset, and you've linked that to this currency, which is now a currency that you can use, and you're using Stellenbosch as the vehicle to actually test the tradability and to try and get it into the retailers so that people can actually have the currency and use the currency at a retailer that has it. And so that's kind of the beta phase, I suppose,
100%
of the
proof
thing.
of concept.
Yeah, proof of concept. My first question is there a regulator or an exchange or one place that these carbon exchanges take place? A. B, with the carbon reserve, did you guys create that, or is that something available to everyone, or how does it work, and how do you obtain the carbon offset credits there, if I'm using the right terminology? Once you've linked the currency to it, how does that make people any more carbon offset conscious? How does it create a demand for these credits?
Yeah. I'm going to start from this, try and explain it in the simplest way I know how, and I'll pick off some of those questions. First of all, what we must all understand is that this graph that we wear on our shirts is carbon dioxide emitted from 1750 to now.
Wow. So
in the Industrial Revolution, we have increased our emissions, humans, by a considerable amount. It's stand to be corrected, but there's roughly 1.5 trillion tons excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So let me explain it like this. If there's 1 million particles in a certain area, 280 of those should be carbon dioxide. At the moment, it's 440, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if you think about almost double the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than there should be, then the highest peak in the last hundreds of thousands of years.
Well, imagine putting it into this little room and saying, guys, I'm going to double the carbon dioxide in here. Everyone would be a little bit uncomfortable with that. You know?
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I was going to put more in here. It's like, whoa, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
What would we be without?
Yeah.
We only realized, and this is debatable, when humanity realized that this was a problem, because there's proof that Exxon knew in the 80s. They had a report basically saying, if we continue what we're doing, this is going to happen. And it's all very accurate, scarily accurate. But in the 70s, we really found out what damage carbon dioxide does in the atmosphere. But by then, our economies are dependent on carbon dioxide. And the reason why that is actually, it's quite interesting from an economics perspective, because I'm not a environmentalist, like an emotional environmentalist. I'm not, and Toko is not based on that. We don't want to, stop traffic, and we don't want to go and protest. That's not our vibe. We want to solve this in a very calm, logical way.
You don't want to complain. You want to find a solution.
100%. By trying to find a solution, you need to look at the problem, and you need to really understand the problem. And the problem actually, it comes from a market failure. The market, we live in a capitalist world, where supply and demand rules. Price is the indicator of supply and demand. We understand those things. But there's something called a negative externality, which is not priced into the good that is sold, that is going to create damage for future generations. So I'm trying to think of an example of another negative externality. A negative externality of living in a house is your refuge, your garbage that you put outside. If that is not cleaned, you'll have to pay for that at some point, but you pay the man to take it away. Yeah. So you fix the market, the negative externality, because you don't want the waste on your doorstep.
Yes.
The market failed because it hasn't priced in the future damage of carbon dioxide to the good that is sold today.